if you can't feel gratitude, or if you can't feel love, I just want to know what you've been practicing feeling every day. Because that feeling that you're practicing is what you're always feeling. Now let's practice feeling something else. In the beginning, it's not going to be easy.
One of the ways that we find our audience struggles is deducing the energy of the people around you and the energy that you attract into your life and the people that you keep. Often, like you said, there are people coming to your seminars that are dragging their partners.
Yeah.
And they have to drag their partners there because their partners are not understanding it initially. Where is that? Is there a method for people to start deducing the energy of people they meet and connect with, to be aware if they're on the same frequency or on the same path?
Well, I don't know if there's a machine that does that. But once again, like, I think that if we share the same experiences, because we like the same things, we share the same emotions. And if we share the same experiences, we share the same emotions, I can relate to you, so we can exchange ideas and information.
Yep.
And if we share the same energy, energy is information. So many people, as an example, they use each other to reaffirm their dependency on suffering. So I suffer more than you say you suffer more than me. We have this thing, we just complain with each other. Well, that's the same resonance, the same frequency, and there's a match, right? But it goes to the same means if you're someone has a accountability partner that you exchange ideas like this with, and it's a different frequency and different energy. So when energy comes together and it's constructive, something comes out of it. You feel it, right? You feel an elevation. If there's dissonance, then your sensing meter is how you feel about that person, many times in your gut or in your heart or wherever. And there's destructive interference, and there's no energy involved. So I think that's just a practice. But really, the ultimate mastery is to be able to be in such resonance, such coherence, that when you walk in the room, that you raise everybody's energy, and you don't let your energy drop because of any circumstance or any condition. And that would be greater than your environment, right? And that's the model that we use. So imagine 1,500 people in an event where everybody's getting super coherent, and the interference that's going on in the room is creating these high amplitudes. Now, we've measured that in the room, and the energy in the room is off the chart many times. There's energy for healing in there. There's energy for all kinds of things that can happen. So we brought it to life with our awareness. And so the more elevated the emotion, love, gratitude, freedom, bliss, ecstasy, the higher the frequency. So, but it turns out you can have a collective group of people with a lot of energy and be incoherent, and it creates entropy.
Yeah.
You could have a smaller group of people that are highly coherent and put out a very big signal. So when we see a collective really get coherent, wow, the energy in the room opens up doors of possibilities that I would never expect. I mean, I don't know how to explain some of the phenomenological things that happen. But that's everybody's divine. Like everybody's in that state. They're in that elevated state. So I think our truth meter is really whether we feel lifted or we feel like we've been robbed.
Yeah. And often our feeling of feeling lifted is based on everything we've just talked about. It's based on a void, based on an unhealed trauma, based on a gap or a part of ourselves that we haven't yet broken a belief. And so often feeling lifted is not feeling lifted in the way you're saying.
Right.
It's feeling lifted in the external superficial sense.
Right. Reaffirming the emotion you need.
Just as you said earlier at the beginning, that an external event could make you feel sad.
Right.
The external event is making you feel good.
Right.
But it's still external.
You're exactly.
Right? Like the opposite.
Right. So then that means then when things are good, you feel good.
Yeah.
When things are bad, you feel bad. So there's dramatic contrast and polarity. And this is the realm of polarity, right? So how do you find the middle path? Well, the heart is the middle path. It's a union of polarity. It's a union of opposites. It's oneness. It's wholeness. And this is where we have to begin to create from. All of this down here is all humanity. This is all our animal nature. We get up in here, things change, right? You go from selfish to selfless, and something else happens. So it's really funny too, because when a lot of people come, they say, I don't know, I'm having difficulty opening my heart. I'm practicing, but I'm not feeling anything yet. And And then it comes time to do our healings on other people. And the moment it was no longer about you, all of a sudden something happened. Well, of course, that's what the heart is about, right? So it comes in ways that we least expect at times.
Yeah, I love that you've incorporated that element of people having that experience. And often most people can't open their heart to others because they haven't even opened their heart to themselves,
Yeah,
right?
of
Like
course.
they haven't been through that process of,
Sitting long enough
Yeah.
to let the heart, I mean, I always say to people, when was the last time you sat with your heart and just worked with it? Like so that it's not contracted and afraid and protected. It takes practice to do that. And so we work with people in letting them, we give them numerous opportunities to practice this over and over and over again. And sooner or later, petal by petal, it starts to bloom. And all of a sudden, there's an authentic smile on their face. And once energy meets the heart, it goes right to the brain. We did this study where we hooked up an electrocardiogram to an electroencephalogram. And an electroencephalogram is a brain mapping machine. So we measure 19 or 26 different compartments, and we're looking to see all different kind of activity in the brain. But we measured the heart along with it, and when the heart starts beating coherently, in a sense of order, like taking a big sheet, Jay, and going like that, the heart sends a wave right up to the brain, and the brain goes into these beautiful states of alpha. The heart is telling the brain it's safe to create again. It's safe to imagine. It's safe to dream of a new future. And there's the stroke volume of the heart in order, and then you see these 2 or 3 seconds of beautiful, coherent alpha. The brain is it's in that creative state. Then there's a pause, and it happens again, and it's beauty. It's a symphony. If you don't have that mechanism, you can have all the intention in the world, but there's no carrier wave. I mean, and people, when they make energy reach their heart, there's an external field that's created. It's magnetic. It's measurable, and that energy is frequency. And if that frequency is coherent, it can carry the intent or thought on a coherent brain of that future. The energy of suffering cannot carry the thought of health or wealth. It's not consistent with it. It carries a different set of thoughts. So then the training then is getting people into those heart states, because once they start trading that fear or that pain or that frustration or trying or whatever, forcing, control for gratitude, and they just let all that go. And I say to them, listen, if you can't feel gratitude, or if you can't feel love, I just want to know what you've been practicing feeling every day. Because that feeling that you're practicing is what you're always feeling. Now let's practice feeling something else. In the beginning, it's not going to be easy, but you got to keep following the formula, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Well, when they start feeling gratitude, it's very interesting, because the emotional signature of gratitude is that something wonderful just happened to you. Something favorable is happening to you, right? So you've just received something, or you're receiving something, you say thank you. So gratitude is the ultimate state of receiving emotionally. So when you move into a state of gratitude and you open your heart, you will accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to that emotional state, and you'll program your autonomic nervous system into a different destiny. You could say, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, and your body is conditioned into misery, and it's saying, no, you're not. And that thought stops right at the brainstem. It never makes it to the body, because the body is on a different program. So then, when the person starts trading that and they start opening their heart, well, their immune system gets stronger by 50%. 50% in 3 days, they start making immunoglobulins. Their body's natural defense against viruses and bacteria is 50%, not a little bit, a lot. That's one study. And so trading that, telling the body it's in the environment where it already happened. And so that's when the miracles start happening. That's when people say, I'm not doing anything. Well, of course you're not. You don't have to. So then, last point about this, because it's so important that people understand that most people are creating matter to matter. So the more you live by the hormones of stress, the more altered you are inside of you. The rush of those adrenal chemicals narrows your focus. The senses are heightened, and we become materialists. And now all of our attention is on our bodies, on our environment, and on time. And now we're lost in the VR machine of three-dimensional reality. Everything appears as separate. So I'm here and you're there, and there's space and time between us. And then there's me here and there's my dreams. I place them way out there in the future. Why do I place them out there? Because I'm estimating how much I have to work to get that house, to get that car, how much I have to save, how much overtime I have to work, what things do I have to do, how do I have to cheat, rob, steal, lie, whatever I have to do to get it, right? That's matter trying to change matter. And so when it doesn't happen, we feel more separation. We try harder, we force, we pray, we control, all that stuff. So then creating from the field instead of from matter means that you have to take all of your attention off your body, all of your attention off all the people in your life, all your attention off all the objects and things, all the places, and even time itself, and become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, no time. And if you're not any of those things, what are you? Your consciousness. And now you are liberated from the rules of three-dimensional reality where everything takes time and energy to get what you want. Now, when we create from the field instead of from matter, because it's not matter that's emitting the field. It's actually the field that's creating matter. Change the field, you change matter, right? Now, this is not something you take one bite of and you get. It's something you got to really practice. So then, by doing this properly with a coherent brain and a coherent heart, you got a Wi-Fi signal. And if you're creating from the field instead of from matter, you no longer have to go anywhere to get what you want. If you were connected to that invisible field of energy called the unified field, the quantum field, which connects everything physical and material, and you're aware of it and you're connected to it. You're connected to source. Why would you, if you were source, why would you go get anything? You draw it to you. So the thought, coherent brain, is the intent. It's the electrical charge. The elevated, the motion, the heart has a magnetic signature. It's the magnetic charge. The thought is sending the signal out. It's a directive. The feelings drawing the event back. Create that combination, and now you're going to collapse space and time, and you're going to draw those synchronicities to you. Now, I'm here in this lifetime. I'm clear that I want to master that. I want to get good at that because I don't want to. I did the other stuff. You can get successful the other way, but you're too tired. It takes too much energy. I would rather synchronize my energy to synchronicities in my life and be mystified by, wow, this stuff really works. And every synchronicity that happens that catches you off guard and brings you joy and awe and wonder, you're going to use that energy to create the next one. And it gets weird. I've had some crazy synchronicities in the last 3 days. I'm laughing while I'm driving going, oh my God, this life is so incredibly mysterious. What an amazing ride this is. That's a different perspective when you're not synchronizing. Well, you ask the person, was it worth it? You showed up every day. Was it worth it? Absolutely. So when it starts happening and you start seeing those, you see feedback in your world, you're going to pay attention to what you did and you're going to do it again. And you're going to be like, okay, I've done this, and I've done this. People who heal themselves have very little difficulty healing someone else. It's just the next step. And then with COVID, and we couldn't do the healings in our events, we had students just get together and say, if we're in the quantum, okay, and everything's connected, do I really need to be there? I just need a target. Give me the face. Give me the coordinate. Love transcends space and time. Okay? Well, give me that coordinate. I'll love that person in the life. And these people do it. And we have reputable universities now that are studying this phenomenon. And they're telling me, these are universities that have some of the most advanced laboratories. I'm talking the Nobel Prize researchers. They want to change the conversation in medicine. And today I got a video of somebody being healed remotely. And she's laying there. Her cancer went from really bad to nothing. And she videotapes herself when the group works on her. She is laying there and her body is moving all over that floor. It's twisting and turning. There's energy manipulating that body. They're changing the pattern in the field. They don't need, the body is the illusion. The tumor is the illusion. That's the hologram. Change the pattern in the field, you change the projection in three-dimensional reality. Our person who's healed themselves and been in a circle where they've healed someone else, and then when you do that, what's next? I don't know. You won't know until you have that experience. And I've sat in on the groups where they get together on the Zooms and 5 people that they've healed tell their story. a mother whose daughter's unresponsive with an injury or a handicap from birth, who's now looking at her brothers, who's trying to talk, who's smiling, who's present. The mother's telling the story. There's 40 people on the Zoom. We're all crying. Not crying for any other reason, but the species is helping. The living organism called the human being is healing one another. They're informing one another, taking care of one. Something innate is awakening us. We're crying. The experience of that produces an emotion that's different than any other emotion you could ever feel. That's a new experience. Do you think that person who goes to heal the next person is going to have a problem opening their heart after that? They know what the payoff is. And so they don't contract, oh my God, that person has in a coma. How many people have come out of comas because of this healing group? They're spot on. They can hit a target. And they lay their energy over that field and another one over it and another one over it. And all of a sudden you get these complex, coherent patterns. And it's creating a change in matter. And they figured it out. And we have universities we're collecting all the data and they're crunching all the algorithms. We know that it works really well for anxiety. It works really well for insomnia, for neurological disorders, Parkinson's disease, inflammation. We're capturing that pain, huge changes in pain. And they're on the other side of the planet. And we're synchronizing, we're measuring heart rate variability, and we're sending electrodes and sensors to the people that are being healed, and we're seeing if there's a correlation between the coherence of the group that's doing and the coherence of the person who's having the experience. And we're measuring DNA before the healing, and 3 days of healing, we measure the DNA after. Why? Because evidence is the loudest voice. You see that, it's the 4-minute mile. That you can't go back to being the same person. I scratch my head sometimes when I'm standing on the stage and there's someone speaking to the audience who has had a very serious health condition, and they don't look like a vegan, and they don't look gluten-free, and they don't look young, and they don't look buffed, and they don't look like they're in shape. They just look like a normal person that has struggled with a health condition, and they're telling the truth. You are witnessing the truth. They are the example of truth. In other words, they have the scans, they have the blood tests, it's gone. And I'm looking out in the audience, Jay, and everybody is leaning in. Nobody is moving. They are in awe of the 4-minute mile right in front of them. Somebody broke through. Somebody pierced that veil. Somebody broke out of that level of consciousness. And that story is filled with truth. Not my words. It's their words. They just showed up every day for themselves. They just kept showing up and believing in it, and they became it, right? You ask that person, where's the disease? They'll tell you it's in the old person. I'm somebody. I'm not the same. Can't be there. The person in the audience who's relating to that person with the same rare genetic disorder, the same lupus, the same cancer, don't you know that their belief is going to change right in front of them? And instead of taking 2 years to do it, they do it in 3 months. Why? Because as soon as the 4-minute mile was broken, the next one that broke it was 2 weeks later, and there's been 1,400 people have done it. I mean, it's not a thing anymore, right? So to me, we have such compelling evidence in science with brain scans. You can make your brain work better. You can make your heart work better. You can make your immune system work better. You can make your cells go from really sick to really healthy. We've got great evidence. You can become immune to serious viruses. You can become immune to bacteria. We've got the measurements. You can lengthen your life. We have great evidence, and the people aren't monks. They're not nuns. They're not religious scholars. They're just common people. And then we have testimony of people who are the example of truth. They are the example of truth. I would rather have dinner with those people than anybody else. They know something, right? So evidence then becomes the loudest voice, right? And that's what I think what people are looking for right now. The truth is so lost in sensationalism, and the truth is so lost in emotional agreement. And so people who want to feel fear, they program themselves and accept, believe, and surrender that. People who want to be hateful, it's all there. It's all there, and it's a matrix to find the way out, right? And I think there's a door. I just think that we have to trust the innate information that comes from within us.
Absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait to actually experience an event in reality.
I'm going to invite you one more time, and then I'm going
Yeah.
to send somebody over here in a car to pick you
Well,
up
I
and
think
take
last
you there.
time we wanted to do it, and then the pandemic hit. So from last time, but no, I would love to. I can't wait to experience that and to experience it personally, not just to watch others, but to actually go through it myself too. But with all of that said, and seeing these breakthrough in patterns, you having transcendental experiences, what do you believe in this present state of ignorance, as you said? What do you believe is the purpose of life overall?
To figure out the purpose of life.
Okay.
No, I really think I think the mathematics that I've looked at says there's infinite experiences to have. You will never know the end. So then, if you study any religion, I've looked at a lot of them. This concept of eternity, that the soul is going to be around for eternity, that's a long time. And that means you got to be okay with you for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I think it's the creation of more experiences, and I think I think we came from source, from singularity, from oneness. And we have descended down into density, fooled by our senses into separation. And every single being has a spark of oneness of the divine within them. And we got so separate that we now have our own free will to answer the question, is there more? Because if you're oneness, it gets kind of boring after a while. Like, is there anything else? Well, the moment you ask if there's anything else, you're no longer oneness. You're something other than oneness, right? And you're a different consciousness, separate from oneness. So I think then we live life, and then when we can predict the feeling of everything that can happen in our life and it gets boring and we're not impressed by anyone or anything, we ask the same question, is there more? And that's when the soul goes, all right, well, it's been how many lifetimes you've been doing this? Okay, there's an awakening. And we ask that question, and then all of a sudden, we start getting information and books and stuff, and meet people, and it gets exciting, and it's how the universe works. And so we climb out of this, and I just think there's so many incredible experiences that are left in the unknown that we get to have, and then of course when the journey's over and you've evolved to that point, then you take that wisdom and you say, here's what I learned. And it was scary down there. And I was like, boy, I tell a great story. And then you hang out there and you go, is there anything else besides all? And then here we go again. It just never ends. I don't know. That's my theory.
That's a great answer. I loved it. I resonate deeply with many parts of that answer. I think it's a really beautifully put way of thinking about it and bringing in that, like I said at the beginning, bringing in that spiritual, that science and the experience of what it would actually look like to live for eternity. So it's a beautiful, beautiful answer. Dr. Joe, we end every episode with the final 5. These are the fast 5 questions where the answers have to be one word to 1 sentence maximum.
Okay.
So this is...
I don't remember this from last time, so this is good.
Yeah, and I'll probably break my rule with you because you give phenomenal answers.
No, I'll do my best.
I'll try my best as well.
Me too.
I'll try my best as well. Okay, so Dr. Joe, these are your final 5. The first question is, what is the best advice you've ever received?
To show up for yourself.
What's the worst advice you've ever received?
Believe what people tell you.
What's something that you've said in the past that you were confident about it then, but now upon reflection, you're like, oh, actually, I've changed my mind about that?
Oh, that it takes a long time to create reality.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to expand on that because I like that answer. I want to know more. That's fascinating.
Well, I think just like anything else, you learn how to snowboard, you go through that learning curve. You learn how to ride a bike, you go through that learning curve. That I used to think that creation was hard. I just thought it took a lot of energy and it took a lot of sacrifice and you had to work for it. And
great answer.
And God, I mean, even my definition of surrender today is very different than it was just 3 months ago because I'm always doing it. And so I think that it doesn't have to be that way. I just think that it could be any way you want, and I'm working on that, changing that belief.
Love that. Beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing that. Question number 4. What's one thing that you think people value but you don't?
Oh, other people's opinions. If I really cared what people thought, I would have stopped this a long time ago. And now it's so great because I have so many
Data
researchers and
and
physicians and everybody.
I'm very glad you didn't stop.
Thank you.
And we are very happy you didn't stop. I think it's deeply meaningful work. And the more time we spend together and the more time I hear where you want to take people and where you want what you want people to experience is just beautiful. So thank you for what you do. And,
Thanks.
Fifth and final question. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
Take care of one another.
Nice and simple.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Why do you think anonymity is so important for all of us in our life to experience? Why is it such a fascinating experience?
Because when you go past your ego identity, there's a bigger identity that is so huge, it's incomprehensible. It can't even be described. And there's a freedom and a joy that comes from that. And I had had glimpses of that, but this period of intense stillness. And by the way, since then, I've kept a week of silence every year. Sometimes I do more. And that week of silence, usually in September, I do every year, just to go back to the taste of timeless being instead of, our ego identity, which we keep polishing every day now, especially these days with social media and books and promotions and you name it.
What's something that people can do daily to access that experience? Because like you said, our days are just busy with work and family and commitments and events. What's something people can do daily that helps them access their true identity, their self, going beyond the ego and the mind and the body?
I think the basic of it is to still the mind as much as possible and just become a silent witness to that which is happening on the screen of your consciousness. So if you close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, and then, I usually start with a little reflection. Who am I? Who wants to know the answer? What is it that wants to know the answer to the question, who am I? What is my purpose? What do I want for me and the world? What am I grateful for? That's how I start. Then I go into a little bit of breathing and then mantra meditation. And then what I do is I witness what's happening on the screen of my consciousness, just becoming aware. And sooner or later, you realize that what's happening on the screen of consciousness is not who you are. You're the one who's watching that. And then what's happening on the screen of your consciousness ultimately leads to deep insights about mind and body and the physical world, which actually doesn't really exist. But we can get into that when we talk about metahuman. But I think if people just ask these 4 questions every day before they start their day, even without a prolonged meditation process, who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? What am I grateful for? Suddenly the windows to the bigger reality start to open.
Absolutely. This is such a beautiful point that Deepak's making right now for everyone listening and watching. It's just such a simple way of starting to transcend the noise and the clutter that we feel every morning when we wake up and the first thing we do is look at our phones. All you have to do is just switch that habit for asking yourself these questions.
And you don't need to know the answers because, there are no fixed answers. These answers keep changing. All you have to do is live the questions, and then life keeps moving you into answers that you need at that moment in your life.
Absolutely.
And it all happens spontaneously, synchronistically.
Such a great point, because these answers are revealed and received.
Yes.
They're not found.
And they're pertinent for that moment in your life, not necessarily the answers.
I love that. I think that's such a good point, because so often we put this pressure when we ask a question that we must find the answer now. It's like the education system has drilled us in believing that you have the right or wrong answer within moments.
What was that poet who said, live the questions and life will move you to the answers when you need them. Because if you got them right now, you may not be even prepared for them.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. I know life has done that to me a lot of times.
That's it, yes.
Yeah, when you ask questions And you think you want the answer now,
Mhm.
but then when you actually receive it, you realize, yes, I wasn't prepared.
That's right.
Absolutely. Wow. What a profound way of thinking about it. I love that. That's made a huge shift in my mind.
Thank
Not
you.
even to want to answer the questions now.
No.
Just ask them and let your day
And let
reveal
them
to you.
go.
Yeah,
They
let
come
them
in
go.
the form of insight, intuition,
awesome.
inspiration, creativity. But most importantly, they come in the form of meaningful coincidences,
Yeah.
or what Carl Jung calls synchronicity, or what religious people say grace.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Meaningful coincidences.
That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah. How beautifully said. I love that. So this is what I love about your journey, Deepak, is just that at every point, it seems that you've been a seeker for more. Like you've continually gone in the direction of more learning, more growth, never settling. How have you seen the medical industry shift? How have you seen other things around you shift with time? Because you've really gone all the way. Do you think that we are seeing shifts in the medical
Yeah, we are
world?
seeing shifts. When I started, I felt like a loner.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But now integrative medicine is part of every institution, even including academia. And in the last 15, 20 years, our foundation has done a lot of research. So we've made it pretty mainstream right now. So to summarize very shortly, what has taken 30 years to learn or more, 40 years to learn, is that only 5% of disease-related gene mutations are fully penetrant. So let me explain this for those for a lay audience. So a genetic a genetic mutation is a mistake. It's an error in the gene. Genes are stretches of DNA that code for proteins. So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and there are 4 of these named after alphabets: adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, ATCG. So ATCG are the 4 letters of life. In English, we have 26 letters. And most languages, human languages, we have more than 20 letters. But the language of life, DNA, has only 4 letters, ATCG. And these spell out words that we call genes. And the body is a story spelled out by those genes. So when people say first there was the word was made into flesh, in a way it's very literal actually when you start to look at the biological mechanism. Now, once in a while, or more than once in a while, there are genetic mistakes. So you might think of them, again, we're speaking metaphorically, but a spelling mistake. So instead of the word being spelled correctly, maybe one of the letters, ATCG, is missing, or it's in the wrong place, or it's upside down, or you have redundant 2 letters instead of 1. That mistake, genetic variation, is called a mutation. Now, only 5% of these genetic mutations that are associated with disease, cancer, heart disease, arthritis, strokes, you name it, autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer's, only 5% actually guarantee the disease, which means if you have one of those mutations, you're going to get the disease. Like Angelina Jolie had a gene called the BRCA gene, which predicts breast cancer, 100%. So she had a mastectomy to prevent the cancer, rightly so. For those 5%, there are new technologies that are being developed right now. And CRISPR is one of them, which means you can cut and paste the gene the way you would an email. So you would take the defective gene, you'd read the barcode with a molecular scissors, you delete it, and then you'll insert the right gene. It's not happening right now, but it'll happen in the near future. But what people don't understand is that's 5% of illness.
Wow.
The rest, even the genetic mistakes that are associated with disease, depends on how you live your life. And very simple things like sleep, meditation and stress management, movement, yoga and pranayam. Now, yoga and pranayam goes way beyond exercise, because with yoga and pranayam, there's a particular nerve in the body called the vagus nerve. It's the 10th nerve. And the word vagus is a Latin word, but it's related to the English word vagabond. So this nerve comes from the midbrain It influences your facial expressions. So you can now do micro expressions and see if a person is happy or not. It influences the eye movements. It influences the tone of your voice. Are you threatened? Are you stressed? Are you friendly? Are you happy? It influences your heart rate activity. Then it pierces the diaphragm, and it influences the activity of every other branch of the vagus nerve that goes to all the organs in the body. So when I discovered this through yoga teachers and masters, I realized that the yoga asanas, we say yoga asana, and people usually translate that into as postures.
Mm-hmm.
But actually the word asana means seat, as you know, seat of awareness, seat of consciousness. So each yoga asana is a particular seat of consciousness that stimulates a particular nerve that is going to an organ in your body. And the only reason for that nerve is self-regulation or healing or homeostasis. So when I discovered that, I became fanatic about yoga. I haven't missed yoga now for as long as I can remember.
That's
not
amazing.
One day.
Wow.
Okay, not one day of yoga or meditation or pranayam. So it was a long time. So when you put together, yoga, movement, sleep, stress management, healthy relationships and emotions like love, compassion, joy, equanimity, food that doesn't kill your microbiome, which is the 2 million extra genes in our body, which are not human. So you only have 25,000 human genes, but you have 2 million bacterial genes in your body. This is called the microbiome. It's as important as the human genome. So you can change the activity of your microbial genes just by changing your diet. So if you go, not even vegan, but if you go maximum diversity on plant-based foods and foods that are not contaminated with antibiotics or hormones or insecticides, you can change your genetic activity and the population of your genes in less than 6 weeks, and which means then you're reinventing your body because your body is spelled out by your genes. So this got me going strongly into how do we reinvent our bodies by resurrecting our souls and going past our minds. And that's what I'm obsessed with now.
Wow, I love that. I'm so glad you're obsessed with it, because the fact that we're so responsible for our own well-being is huge, in the sense of belief that there are ways in which we can rewrite that story.
You can rewrite the genetic structure of your body. You can't change the human genes, by the way, because you got them from your parents, but you can change their activity. So here's one of our researchers. We put people through a 1-week retreat where they not only learned mantra meditation, but they also practiced the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali from the chapter on the siddhis, particularly transcending the senses. In 1 week, literally, and this is published now in major peer-reviewed journals. If people want to check them out, go to choprafoundation.org and you'll see all the research. And the research was in collaboration with scientists from Harvard, from UCSF, from Duke, from Scripps, of course, Chopra Foundation, Mount Sinai in New York. And what did we find? We found that in 1 week of this practice of meditation and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, all the genes that are responsible for healing and self-regulation, they went up some 17-fold over baseline. These are human genes. And the genes that cause disease or inflammation went down drastically. The enzyme, there's an enzyme in our body called telomerase. It influences the length of telomeres, which are like little buttons at the end of your chromosomes. The level of the enzyme went up 40% in 1 week, which means people were reversing their biological age at a genetic level.
Wow.
Okay, now how far does this go? We don't know.
And that was just 1 week.
It's just 1 week. And the people who are in samadhi for weeks at a time, those traditions are not that prevalent. There's a technique in Ayurveda called Kaya Kalpa, where you go into a retreat where it is totally dark, where you have no communication with the world, where you transcend, where you eat minimal, maximum diversity of plant-based foods. and within 6 months you come back a younger person biologically, physiologically. I'm 72 now.
I know you look incredible.
I'm not focused on aging anymore.
Yeah,
because I think that's a mistake.
For anyone who follows Deepak on social media, Instagram or Facebook, if you don't already, I highly recommend it. But I've never seen you miss a day of yoga or meditation.
I don't.
I see you every time, and you inspire me so much, because I just think, like, if you're able at your current body's age to be able to do the things you are with your body, and how healthy you are and how healthy your body and mind are, I mean, we have no excuses. Like,
there's biological age, which is the exact biomarkers. So what's blood pressure, bone density, body temperature regulation, fat content, cholesterol, vision, hearing, skin thickness, wrinkles, hormones. That's biological age. Then there's chronological age, when you were born, what your birth certificate says.
Yes.
Then there's psychological age, how do you feel?
Yes.
And then there's spiritual age, which is timeless,
Yes.
which has no age whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So, we have to make these distinctions and see which of these we're talking about.
100%, 100%. When you said at the end there that you're not thinking about aging anymore, what did you mean by that when you said that?
It's now something I talk about in my new book, Meta Human. That what we call body, mind, and world, and aging, and birth, and death are actually human constructs. They're not real. Now, we can go into that to the extent that you want.
Yeah. Should we dive into the book for a bit?
We can.
Yeah, let's do that. If that's what you want to do, let's,
if you want, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I've got so many questions on the book that we'd put together for you. So I'm happy to do that. So in one of the things, this is what I was looking at, you start the book by prompting 2 questions, right? In moments where you feel very happy, do you watch yourself being happy? And when you're angry, is some part of you free of anger, right? Why did you start with these 2 questions?
So in all the spiritual traditions, not necessarily just the Eastern traditions, they speak of 2 worlds, the immanent and the transcendent. So the immanent is this world that we're in right now, this space-time causality, New York City, the hotel we're in. And then the transcendent world is the world of infinite being or consciousness. At all times, we're in both these worlds without knowing. But once you become aware, even slightly, that the awareness of a thought is not a thought, right? If you're able to observe a thought, then you, the observer, is not that thought, right? Similarly, the observer of the emotion, or which is the awareness of an emotion, is not the emotion.
Agreed.
Or a perception, or a color. Right now we are perceiving through our 5 senses. And what we are perceiving is colors, forms, shapes, sounds, sensations in our body, maybe emotions, and thoughts, and maybe images. That's the raw material of experience. That's all there is. Okay? The words body, mind, and world are human constructs based on the interpretation of these raw sensations. So once you start to become a witness of experience, you realize that you are intrinsically free of the experience, unless you identify with it, unless you say, that's me.
Yes.
It's not you, it's an experience you're having, right?
Absolutely.
So once you bind yourself to the experience, which we call the karmic web of existence, then you are in that circle of karma, memory, desire. You are constantly seeking validation. You're afraid of people who criticize you. You're flattered by people who flatter you. You feel beneath someone or superior to someone. It's the melodrama of our daily existence. So when you can observe what's happening in the realm of experience, and instead of reacting to it, you observe the reaction to react, even for a second. Instead of reacting to the experience, you observe the reaction to react. you suddenly realize that your range of options or choices right this moment is actually infinite. And you don't have to be a bundle of
Wow.
conditioned reflexes and nerves that's constantly being triggered by people and circumstances into predictable outcomes. So you become you're at the mercy of every stranger on the street. So
Yeah.
I think it's very important to know that yes, I'm having this experience, but I'm intrinsically free of this experience. So that's how the book starts.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, because it's an analogy I usually used to share. That experience is like when we're in a car and someone hits the car, we say, oh, someone hit me.
Yes.
But actually they didn't hit you, they hit the car.
Yeah.
And you're identifying as the car as yourself.
Yes. Now, how about if they hit your body?
Yeah.
And your body perishes, right?
Yes.
So that's the argument people have against the argument that spiritual people have, which is you're not your body, you're not your mind. So, but you remember that famous dialogue between Samuel Johnson and whoever that idealist was, and he said, the world is a projection of consciousness. And I think it was Samuel Johnson who hit his leg on a piece of stone and said, I refute you thus, saying that, you get hit by a bus, you're going to break your bones and you might die.
Sure.
So why do you say that the physical world is an illusion? Now, if you want, we can address that.
Yeah, let's address that. Yeah.
Let's
absolutely.
address that.
Yeah.
So, this is, of course, I take people through the book very slowly.
Of course.
But if you asked a regular person on the street, what is this? They'd say it's a microphone. If you ask them, what's this? You'd say, this is a watch. What's this? This is my hand. What's this? This is my body. Now, if you really start to look at this very carefully, before you call anything by its name, microphone, hand, body, watch, before you use those words, it's an experience. And the experience is actually not a physical experience. Color, form, and shape are not physical experiences. If I asked you, where in the physical world is the color red located, you would say nowhere. In fact, there's no color red in the physical world. What's coming to your eyes are electromagnetic vibrations which have no color. What's happening in your eyes, there's no color. And if I asked you to imagine a beautiful red sunset, you have a picture in your consciousness, but there's no picture in your brain. There's no picture in your eyes. And actually, the sunset is not, if you're imagining it, it's not in the physical world. Now, what you don't realize is when you're looking at a real sunset, all you're experiencing is color. The rest is a story. Okay, that's a sunset. This is a body. Okay, color, shapes, textures, sensations, smells, images, emotions, and thoughts have no location in the physical world. And yet, out of this raw material, we create the idea of a physical world. So in Sanskrit, that's called Jagat Mithya, the world appearance on the screen of your consciousness. And your body is part of that world appearance, because people, they say, where are you? People say, I'm here, but there's no one inside there. Okay, because this is also an experience in consciousness. The mind is an experience in consciousness. Moreover, it's a shifting experience in consciousness. No, a thought is ungraspable. It's ephemeral. It's evanescent. You can't catch
transient,
it. Okay, you can't catch a perception. I look here, I look there. These are two snapshots of perception, and they're evanescent. I look at my body, and by the time I look at it again, it's a different body, because it's recycling so fast at the level of atoms and molecules and information and energy. So the fact that we call this a body, it's actually a changing experience of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that is a modified form of your own self. And it's changing. It's ungraspable. Same thing with the mind. It's ungraspable. Same thing which we will call with the world. It's a changing experience of shifting what we call qualia. And the in the spiritual literature now, in the consciousness literature, there's this word qualia instead of quantum. A quantum is a unit of measurement, but a qualia is a unit of experience. So if I tell you, think of your wife right now and you see an image, that's a qualia. Now feel the emotion connected with that, that's a qualia. Now think of what you want to do with her this evening, go out for dinner or a movie, that's a qualia. So qualia are units of experience. When we string them together, we create the construct of mind, body, and world. And once we create that construct, then we're stuck with constructs like birth and death and karma and memory and desire and all the things which make a very fascinating human experience, but it's not reality. We are already in a virtual reality. Okay, so today with VR and immersive augmented experiences and dreamscapes, it is becoming clear that the world that you and I are inhabiting right now is a collective human dreamscape. And as body minds, we are fictional characters in that dreamscape. And it's an illusion that we can upgrade or we can downgrade. We can create heaven out of it or hell, but it's still not fundamental reality. And now with the new technologies, this is becoming very clear. Once you realize that the world is a construct, yes, the construct has been evolving through mythology, through religion, through economics, through history, through society, through culture, but it's still a construct. And what these great seers, these great rishis were able to do is they were able to deconstruct it. Once you deconstruct it, what are you left with? When you left, you've heard that expression, neti, 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 I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, I'm not the intellect, I'm the observer. What are you left with? Once you deconstruct everything, what you're left with is formless, infinite, dynamic field of infinite possibilities, infinite creativity, infinite love, and the source of intention. So that's what yoga originally was and should be. Yoga means union with the self, which is also the self of the universe. And this is where, I got totally seduced. That human suffering, as the Vedanta says, comes from not knowing true reality, fundamental reality, confusing perceptual reality with fundamental reality, grasping and clinging that which you cannot grasp or cling, the fear of impermanence, the construct of the ego, and the fear of death. These are all the same thing, not knowing what is real and what is a projection. And even the projection can be changed.
Absolutely. Wow. What a masterclass in reality and illusion. How does then one function within the world, but then still understand? Because I think the challenge people have on a day-to-day basis, as you've probably heard for decades, is this, well, if what I'm experiencing is not complete reality, then where do I go from there? Like, what do I do? Do I get married? Do I fall in love? Do I not?
So
do I work?
We go to the movies, I used to go to a lot of movies. I don't that much anymore because what we call everyday reality is a more interesting movie than most movies. Don't have the imagination to capture what is happening in what we call everyday reality. So we're in it. We might as well enjoy it and upgrade it. And that's what the expression is, to be in the world and not of
this world.
Okay, or we are spiritual beings having a human experience, or non-local beings having a local experience, timeless but in time. Once you understand that, and once you also get into the habit of self-reflection, self-inquiry, observing perceptual experiences without necessarily judging them. So I'm right now having the experience of colors and forms and tastes and smells and sounds. I don't necessarily have to qualify this experience. And transcendence, where you go to that place where there is no mantra and no thought and just deep stillness, then the shift starts to occur that you're not identifying with your body, mind, or experiences of the world, and yet you're enjoying them or not enjoying them. And now you want to do something to shift. And since you're in the world, about 25 years ago, I wrote this book, How to Make That Practical. And I don't know how, but basically I came up with the idea of the 7 spiritual laws of success. The law of pure potentiality, the law of giving and receiving, karma, intention, desire, least effort, and detachment and dharma. Those 7 principles guided me into a new idea of what success is. The progressive realization of worthy goals, the ability to love, have compassion, but most importantly, to identify with your creative center instead of the projection that's coming from that center. Because most of the time, our experience is coming from identifying with a projection that has been created by the conditioned or ego mind. Now, the ego mind is not going to disappear as long as you're in this body, or actually you're not in the body is in you, but whatever. So it's not going to disappear. But if you keep it in the background and you're aware of it, and you ask yourself, what am I motivated by? And I have these little tricks in my mind: pursue excellence, ignore success, and then everything happens. Synchronicity, meaningful coincidences, the state of grace, effortless being, spontaneous fulfillment of desire. These are little things over the years that I've gleaned as my little catchphrases to remind myself
of reality.
that I must live a life that is based on love. And if it's not based on love at the highest level, as the Vedantists say, love should radiate from you like light from a bonfire. Not focused on anyone and not denied to anyone. It's just the light of the sun.
I really think that entertainment and education should go hand in hand. Like I don't I'm like, why do we have like billions of dollars going into entertainment, and yet we can't add like 20% of that into like just put education within the entertainment? Because like it should be fun, it should be exciting. Like it's like I said in the beginning, like it's what we're here to do is learn and like create, learn, create. It's just like this circle. And so it's like, I don't know, finding how to reignite their passions is for themselves, like fall in love with themselves and then reignite the passion is really, really powerful to me. And then by helping these girls, like I know that when they become moms, they're going to understand not to give away their identity. Because one of the things that I see in moms, like so much of the time, is they just become mom. And I'm like, no, you're still this girl before you were a mom, and you're still, and I think one of the things that I wish for all of this to help is to make sure that these girls continue on with who they are, and then it's like who they are, and then they're all of the subcategories, all of the characters that they play go below that. Because I've seen it too much in marriages. Like the female just loses her identity and then becomes resentful. It's what happened in my family. I've seen it way too many times with the people around me. I'm just like, how can we heal this? And this is like actually an ongoing conversation in my head. So it's just like,
I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm working on my second book right now, and I talk a lot about how, in a partnership, in any relationship, the goal is to always help each other find each other's purpose.
Exactly.
Because if you're not doing that, like when I think about me and my wife, when I met my wife, I was quite clear about what I wanted to do. And she had loads of talents and skills, but didn't quite know what she was going to do with them. And over the last 5 years of us being married, she's really come into her own, and she's really growing and flourishing and thriving. And it's been beautiful to watch. But I fully agree with you that you can't think that, oh no, but your purpose is just to do this, or your purpose is just to look after the home, or your purpose, even as whoever the role is, doesn't matter what gender you are, but the idea of, oh, your purpose is just to make money for the house. Like that's not a purpose. Like we all have so much more to do. So I love that you brought that up. It's because you get lost in your role.
Yeah, you get lost in your roles. That's like a real thing. And that's what I'm learning from acting as well. I was like, don't get lost in your roles. Like, don't do that. Like
I've heard people do method acting that have actually lost relationships in the real world because of that. And so when I hear that, I'm like, wow.
Exactly. Well, it's a great example of what we do in real life as well.
Yeah.
Because I do think like at some point with like a long-term relationship or friendship, whatever it is, it's like you choose to have them come with you. And if you're not choosing that, then the relationship didn't work, not because it was like you didn't bring them along or they didn't, or you didn't see where they were going and wanted to come with them. It is, as much as like we love the butterflies and we love all that, this is a team partnership.
Yes.
Like if you go, we go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like we go.
And you can't be someone's purpose.
No.
Like don't try and make it like, no, I am your purpose. Like what I do is your purpose and my purpose is the same as yours.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that. Like you can't project your purpose onto another person and expect them to just want to live for that. Right?
Exactly. And then this is all of these things I've been learning recently, like in the last couple of years, especially with like going through like so many public relationships and having that be, oh God, public relationships are terrifying. Oh my God. I was like, I'm good. After my last public relationship, I was like, I'm good. I'm so good. I'm going to just be me in my own little world. No one gets to know. Because not only are you creating roles in the relationship, but now you have the public creating characters of the people that you are. So it's like you're fighting, like it's like you're having conversations with like 4 different versions of the person you're dating. And you're like, oh my God, like.
And half of them aren't even real.
I know. Yeah. I was like, it's like a foggy mirror. You're just like, hello. So that's been really interesting. And then I always feel that relationships are the best reflection as to where you are, right? Because they're just like, I'm just your walking reflection right now. That's why we're in this together, right? So I always get excited because I'm starting to just meet so many amazing people. And I think that's like what I've been learning as well is just like, there's no villain anymore. It's like we can stay together or we can leave in good faith and good heart. And like, it's not, you know, in high school, you're just like, they broke my heart. What? Now it's just like, all good. Like you did me a service by leaving because you were being disservice to me and you for staying because you didn't feel. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's all perfect. Like it's all perfect. Yeah. And then trusting that, like,
what helps you trust and accept that when most of our minds hold on to but it could have been like this, because I feel that's what it is, right? It's always this battle between imagination and reality. And a lot of us prefer our imagination, but then we have and then we have to deal with reality. And I read something, actually, I want to read this to you because I think you'll like it. Oh, wait, let me find it. I have to read it to you because I don't want to mess it up. You know, it's you know, when you like try and say something and you mess it up. So this is by Johann Wolfgang, and he said, few people have the imagination for reality.
Ooh.
And I read that and it literally, like, it really, that's like, there's something, it packs a punch, right? I was like, few people have the imagination for reality. And I was thinking, wow, like, I think my imagination's good, but if I had a really good imagination, I'd be able to accept and trust my reality.
Well, you're kind of like, I'm a great storyteller. And the universe is like, sit down. Sit down. You can tell it later once it's over. You can say it's yours, but it was mine. Like, that's like fully like what I experienced.
That's beautiful. I love that.
You know, it's like, sit down. Like you write it while I create. Like, you know what I mean? Like you remember it. You tell the story. It's ours, you know, but it's mine. But it's ours.
You write, I'll edit.
Yeah. And so like, that's kind of the relationship that I always see. And per your question earlier, imagination and reality, I always, at this point with heartbreaks, I don't see it as heartbreak anymore. I see it as growing pains. And that's sometimes even worse because you're just like, I was good. I was good with just this. Like I don't want to grow. Like I'm good. Like I'm tired. I just want to like watch Netflix and chill. Like I don't want to evolve anymore. Even though I like just got here in retrospect, but like it's still. And so if I look at it as growing pains and then, you know, because we're all artists. And so what I'll do now, and it's actually so intoxicating, is I'll write poetry, I'll write music based off of the experience. I mean, we know all of the biggest artists in the world are like, let me tell you about my heartbreak. And then they blow up because of that. And I'm just like, that's in all of us. And so every single time that I have a new experience of heartbreak or just not working out or whatever it is, I'm like, there is gold in this pain there's gold in this pain and I cannot wait to get it out. I'm just like, woo. So I get this weird, like I get heartbroken, then I get really excited. So, and it goes back and forth. It's almost, and I always tell people, I'm like, when someone leaves your life, it's okay to feel like you're grieving a death, because the character that they played in your life is not there anymore. And so you are grieving someone that's no longer there. Like you are, like when I get broken up with someone I truly love and I'm crying and I'm in that space, it is very similar pain to when I lost my mom. And so like I always reassure, when anytime like my girlfriend comes to me and she's like crying and sobbing, I'm just like, this shit is valid. Don't worry. Like feel it. Like feel it, because you lost a character that you thought was in this season, but it's not. And like you thought he was going to be your season finale. He's not, but it's all good. There's a season 60, there's season 40. Like, you know, there's so many seasons in your life. So it's just coming back to, oh, so if he wasn't meant to be here, then what I attracted was more parts of myself. I became more me because he came into my life. And that is the biggest blessing I could have ever asked for. Like I am a product of everyone that I've dated. And I've fallen in love with them. And then those parts that I've fallen in love with, I took them for myself. And so I'm getting to the point now where I don't grieve it anymore, because I'm like, well, the person that I was in love with, I became. And so that's so interesting how
even if that person wasn't them,
no,
the parts that you thought you fell in love with,
like how powerful it is. Like relationships always fascinate me because I've always been a relationship girl, and seeing how much people grow after relationships. It's like, I mean, you guys have ever seen like Don't Break a Girl's Heart? Do you know what I mean? Like it happened. I just watched my sister do this and I'm just like, ooh, she's gonna be so good after this. Like I'm so excited. Like I get so excited for her because like I love it. Upgrade, like girls get hotter. Like it's just like it's such a vibe. I get so excited because we need. It's almost like the fire. It's like it breaks your heart open so you can light fire. And I'm just like, yes, like let's go. So it sucks. It always sucks. But once again, like back to that same belief that I had, like the more he pulls you back, it's like a slingshot. He just like launch you forward. So I just, at the beginning of 2020, I was just like, oh, this is painful. This is painful. I wonder what's going to happen. And now it's like, I can honestly say I've helped more people than I ever would have imagined. And I'm also like playing with this belief, and like, I think all companies should, is like, can we just like stop this idea that like a company or a brand living forever is success? Because it's not like, it's not sustainable. Things evolve. And so I always tell myself, I'm like, whether this company stays, whether it does, that's not the point. That was never the point. The point is I've helped, I would say over now, like 10,000 girls truly, like actually help them, like speaking to them, talking to them one-on-one. And that I will carry with me. They will carry with them. Like that's good enough. So it's like, it's almost like, this is good enough. It's okay. It doesn't have to last forever. None of these things have to last forever. I feel like we're so, in companies in general, even though this is a community, but like companies, it's like, we're so thirsty to just be the monopoly. And I'm like, no. Yeah. What is this world going to look like if we're all trying to be monopolies? We can't. Yeah. Like, are you good? Are you safe? You have a roof over your head. You can host people. Like, you're good. Yeah. You're good. Like, now how can we return the favor and do more? And it's like, so that's kind of where I'm at with We Are Warriors, is like, it will continue and it's going to be amazing, but the impact is already there. And I'm so honored to like have that impact on them, you know, it's just because it's so real. No,
I'm so glad that you're owning that and accepting that, because I couldn't agree with you more. I think we're fascinated with longevity and lasting till the end. And even in relationships, you stretch it out far longer than it needs to be, just because we think end means failure.
Failure, exactly.
And you're so spot on that the impact, the end is insignificant, really. It's all about what's happening right now in this place, right today.
Yeah, and forget. I'm like, it's right here, fam.
Yeah, if you're making an impact, if you're making an impact on all of these women today, and they're impacting each other, and you're empowering them to also become their own experts and discover their skills. I mean, that's beautiful. Yeah. Exactly. And I'm so glad that you made that point, because I think our obsession with making something last is
unhealthy.
everything. Yeah, it's unhealthy. It's
Yeah,
unhealthy.
It's unhealthy.
And you're only 24.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's the insane part here. I feel like I'm speaking to the oldest soul in the world, and then I have to remind myself. And that's such a wonderful thing because you're carrying your mother's energy in such a special way. Yeah,
it's
no,
her.
it comes through. It's like it's so clear.
Yeah.
That
and it's cool too because like for anyone who's lost someone. Y'all have a speed dial up there. Like you guys can just like, I literally am like, Mom, and she's right there. And so I'm like, you have the strongest connection to the other side or whatever you believe. It's really truly whatever you believe because I'm pretty sure all of this is made up. I mean, we're just like, I'm sitting on an idea right now, which trips me out sometimes. I don't know, like it's weird. But it's like, we have such a deep connection to the other side because we have that person on the other side. And so I utilize that as much as I can. And whenever I forget, I just like, I'm like, how can I remember? How can I remember? I think that's where I am right now. I will, it's always the environment too. So like I'll do incense, I'll make lights, candles, and I'll just sit down and I'll remember. Like whether that's just sitting in silence, it's helping me remember, or just writing until something else comes out. That's what it's, or talking to a friend about it. Like I think and I think we're all at that point where it's not so much you're learning something new. It's almost you're just remembering what was already there on top of everything else per what my sister said about the onions and just unraveling it. And so it's constantly coming back to that. But like I still suffer. Like we all suffer. Like it's all good. It's all good. It's all
definitely.
Good. Yeah.
How have you got through that? You talked about this earlier, and I think you've experienced this, like and I love what you said because we were connecting on this beforehand, and I sometimes feel the same way because I thought I was going to be a monk, and that's literally what I built up. So before that, I had so many passions, but my parenting was ignore the passion, do the safe thing. And so my passions were music, my passions were spoken word, and my passion was philosophy.
Do you still write spoken word?
I do. Yeah. It's such a passion for me. And I feel like a lot of my videos and a lot of my content is still wordplay and has so much, I still use this spoken word in a different way today.
Exactly.
And so that's so much a part of my life, but it was like do the safe thing. And so I was studying business and I thought I'd be an investment banker or a consultant or whatever, any of that stuff. And then I became a monk. That became my dream. And
like, Mom, Dad.
Yeah, literally, like from all of that to that. But even letting go of that, I would say I'm most myself in what I do today.
Yeah.
And being a monk was part of that, but it's not all of me. And being in media, which is what I am now, is not all of me. It's a part of me. And then being in the world of business was a part of me. It's not all of me. And I think you are so right that we limit ourselves. We feel society limiting us, and we feel we have to choose to be one thing. And I think that the fact that you're 24 years old and you've allowed yourself to continue to do this and you still do today, I think that's so wonderful because I think a lot of people stay stuck until, again, wanting to make something last.
Yeah, wanting to make something last. And like every single thing, and I will say this with absolute certainty, like every single thing that any of you guys have been doing that you feel like was the thing and then it's not, it is serving what your thing is. Like ballet, I spent literally almost 20 years every day, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. I would be on point and my feet still hurt, like it's just like, but because of that, it's translated into storytelling. I know how to use my body. My work ethic is insane. I understand. I know how to take direction. I know how to feel when I move. Like it is literally serviced me in everything I've done. And so it's almost just like being okay with letting it go, but then you don't actually let it go. It's always there. That's the thing. It's like, it's always there serving you.
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel with pretty much everything I do. Another thing my mom said is like, she goes, just be passionately curious because put so much pressure on us. So my mom would always just be like, just be curious. Like, just like follow your curiosities. And if it doesn't lead you anywhere, just be like, oh, that was interesting. And like go over here. And so that's what I do. And like, given I still of course have big dreams, but like I let my curiosity take me like, and I don't, the big dream is not the goal. It's like the little moments that get up to it. Right. So like when when I'm having a director meeting and I'm like talking to them about a role or whatever it is, it's like my intention in that call is to make the director feel good, not to get the part. And so just like having those little indirect of like the curiosity.
Wow, that's such a huge thing you just dropped. Yeah, that's a huge thing.
It's who you are. It's who all of us are. It's like if you can stop going, well, this is my goal, to like my intention. I think intentions are actually the most underrated, most powerful things I've ever, like I still learn about how we have an intention 24/7 with everything single thing we do. We just like, sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we're not. And so when you can put an intention on something before you do it, it's crazy how powerful it is. So it's like, I always make sure, because at the end of the day, and this is kind of what we're all looking for, I think even more so than the diploma, than the thing and then the degree, is someone that we connect to, someone that we feel close to, someone that we almost feel like we've already met before. Like that essence comes from the intention of making that person feel connected, not from, I hope I'm right for this, I hope I'm this. And so like whenever I hire for my company, that's my intention. I was like, I don't care where you went to college. Like, why would I care? Of course, yeah. Why would I care? Like, I care about who you are. Like, what's your intention? Like, how are you going to be fun to work with? Like, are we going to, because ideally I want you to be in this for the long run. And so do I want to be talking to you for the next 5 to 10 years? Like, what does that look like? And so having that perspective on when it comes to jobs, when it comes to meetings, anything ever, is like the human connection should go first, no matter what, no matter how bad you want it. Like the human connection is first. That's actually been the best like magic trick my mom taught me, because it's like it always provides what I need and then what the other person needs. So for instance, I was like very excited for this role that I almost got a couple weeks ago. I was very excited. I won't say any names. And he was so sweet, and we were talking, we were having such a good time, and I really understood the character, and it was really great. But then, you know, because I'm not very experienced in the space, he was like, we're going to choose someone else. And I was like, that's completely fine. But then I was sitting in meditation and I had this urge to write him an email. And I didn't know why, because my goal wasn't necessarily to get the part. I just almost felt like the connection of me and him wasn't finished. And so I just sent him a thank you. And I was like, thank you so much for speaking, giving me your time, like learning about me, because who I am matters, because you need to get to know if I fit the care, like all of these things. And because of that, it almost solidified our relationship. But that wasn't my intention. My intention was just like, this isn't over. I don't know why. And I'm just going to sit down and see. So like listening to, almost like letting it overpower whether or not what happened. It's like, if you don't feel like it's finished, like go in there with the intention that you want to just solidify the mirror that you guys are reflecting towards each other, as opposed to like the opportunity that's kind of on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge tool. Huge. It's like actually like probably the reason I'm here, to be honest. So shout out Tool.
Shout out Tool, did you just say? I love that. Today I've discovered how funny you are, which is great, which is really awesome. So I love that. We're going to have so many memes made out of this interview for you. No. There's going to be so many great ones. No. Alexis, is there something that I haven't asked you about that's like on your mind? You're like, I have to share this. I want to say this before we go into the final 5, but I want to know if there's anything that you're feeling intuitively as you are.
Just thank you so much. Like, actually, thank you so much. I'm going to get teary-eyed just like saying it, but thank you. I feel like, I don't know, it was weird. Like once I finally solidified this podcast with you, something like clicked inside of me, and I was like, like I am becoming the person I want to be. And like and so just like, thank you for showing that to me, because it really, I'm not, I just thank you. I just like words they're not it right now. So, but thank you. Yeah. So just, that's it. That's all I have to say.
I love that. I love that. That means the world to me. And I'm hoping that synergy and synchronicity continues. And, you know, this is the beginning of a great friendship. So that's my hope. I really believe that, honestly, the podcast for me has either been a place where I had a lot of relationships offline that people didn't know the types of conversations we were having. And so the podcast was a great way of me sharing, hey, I'm really good friends with this person. This is what we talk about. Yeah. And I want everyone to hear it. And then it's also been the opposite, where it's been like, here's someone I'm really interested to get to know. And I wanted to start a friendship.
And then
so
it's like perfect.
Yeah. And so the podcast for me has been so much more than, and it's what you're saying about a community, more than a company or a brand. Like the podcast for me is not a show. Like that's not the point of it. Like it's a way I can get to know humans that I'm interested in or I find interesting and help people learn about them. So actually I should be thanking you because, you know, I think sitting down with you today has just completely blown my mind and opened up my mind to just so many possibilities as to how someone who's navigated so many stressful situations. And I think the closer you get to it, the more you realize how hard it is. So when I was a young kid and I grew up in London, I knew no one in the entertainment industry. I was not in LA or Hollywood. Everyone in my area was, you know, not going off to work in anything to do with the world I'm in now.
Yeah.
And because of that, you look at people and you go, oh, well, life must be easy for you. You guys have money, you guys have fame, you guys are attractive. Life, why are you complaining, right? And as I've got closer to the industry, closer to people that I coach, that I work with, clients of mine, I've only just had more compassion for everyone, both the people that are like me sitting back there judging, and then both the people who are in the situation, because I realized we're all just feeling some type of pain. And the more we can rise to that point without judgment, the better it's going to be for us, because
we can evolve together.
Yeah, if we expect anyone who's successful to be always happy, then what we're saying is when I become successful, I have to always be happy. And that pressure is just
right back on us. It's interesting how that works. And it's almost like, anything that we direct outwards is an exact manifestation of what's going to happen inside of us. And so we have to be so careful with our words. Like, why do you think they call it spelling? Spells. Like, I'm like,
wow. That's good. I've not heard that before. I like that. That's good.
The words are like, I am. Oh my God. When I hear girls say like, I am ugly or I'm just like, no, no, like you can, no, I refuse to let you say that about yourself, because you would never say that about your daughter. You would never say that about your friend. And so it truly is like having these honest conversations with anyone at any level has been eye-opening to me. And that's one of the reasons why I've always loved the podcast so much, because I got to actually just see the person and not the characters that I see them play in life. So that's really, it's really inspiring. And then also knowing that pain happens on any level. Like pain is pain, you know, like me losing someone from a breakup is just as painful as me losing my mom to death. And I was like, that was weird. I was like,
and you almost feel guilty,
wow,
or like you feel like, can I feel that? Do I allow myself to?
So it's like, validating on any level, because that's actually what connects us as well. And I almost feel like until we have, the goal right now is to connect at every level of being human. And then from there, I mean, I'm pretty sure like an evolution would happen, which would be really cool. That'd be really cool. I'd be like, whoa. Can you imagine if we had everyone at the same time be like, love?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Like, that would be crazy. I've heard, I'm sure you've like heard of those stories where like, they have like monks praying at all at the same time, like 3,000 monks or whatever. And like the crime rates goes down in the city. I've definitely heard, I've seen studies on that before.
Yeah, same.
But just those kinds of scenarios would be like, I think that's what my work would ideally, my like heart work, I guess, is what it's there for, is to like have just more moments of like just people being in absolute like love. And even when I can facilitate, like we were talking about hosting and how like, it's like, why have the big house if you're not putting everyone in it, like hosting it? Like, why do I have a balcony? I'm not going to do anything on it. Like, I'm going to have all my friends like there and like host people. And like, why do I have more than one bedroom? So I can let my friends be there, and like just hosting and having that environment where like we come together and bring like real connection. It is so it's helping the planet so much more than we know. I've
got 2 more questions for you before we go into the final 5, because there's so many things I could talk to you about. The first question I wanted to ask you was around your passion for acting now. So, you know, what right now is making you so passionately curious about acting? What is it about roles? What is it about your development as an artist that connects you so much to acting?
It's almost like proving to myself how many different person or identities I can be. I think it's like I feel even though I seem outgoing, I'm actually quite terrified all the time. And I would say I'm like an ambivert, like an in between.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to acting, I don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to show up as this person.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm nervous, like it doesn't matter. And like once I'm not thinking about lines, once I'm like in that state where I just like haven't memorized to the heart and I can just be there. It's similar to flow state. I'm sure you've written.
I love flow state,
I love flow state.
Yeah, I love
Flow state is the goal.
Yes.
For everything, always. So it puts me in flow state. Basically, there's no time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about my body. I'm not thinking. I'm just here.
Mm-hmm.
And like similar to the way like when you surf, like you're on a wave. It's those like 30 seconds of just like I blacked out. I wasn't even there.
No,
like,
and you're saying that you can actually surf, so you've actually had that experience. Like most people use that analogy, but we've never surfed. So, but you actually surf.
Like, anything, yeah, just like any.
But you can actually surf.
Yeah, I can surf decently. Not good enough to the point where I'm like that guy in the surf being like, "Where'd you catch my wave, bro?"
Right.
I'm like, but just those moments. Like I think I'm right now. I'm just searching for those moments in my life. Like I'm just like, when am I going to forget time here? Am I going to forget time here? And so acting is just one of those things that I've seen is such a powerful, and also it's best because I get to lose track of time with another person. And I feel like connection is so strong for me. And so it's like, I remember, oh my God, this was such a cool moment. On my first set, it was an older actor. He's been around for a long time. I'm sure you know him. I don't remember his name, but he was very, very kind. And we had a scene together where he was kind of just like getting in my face about something, basically saying that I like wasn't worthy or what, I don't know. And I was just like, I got this, I got this scene. Don't worry, guys. And he was like getting in my face. And I just remember a moment where like, we like lost, I just wasn't there and he wasn't there. And it was just a pure moment and I wasn't acting and I was actually feeling everything. And then afterwards he comes to me and he looked at me at Crafty's, the little snack area. He was like, you get it. He was like, you get it, don't you? I was like, yeah. And he was like, keep doing it, kid. Like, keep doing it. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And he was like, you get it. And he was like, it was almost as if he like said, like, you're closer to source in those moments. Like, and so he looked at me like, you get it. And I just flipped out after, because I was eating banana being like, I get it. And so after that, I was like, okay, this is like what I meant to do for now, I guess. And like, we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I just, once again, like the intention, the paths change, but the intention stays the same. So I think that's what keeps me.
That again, love that. I just love that.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think that's been the challenge for so many people. We try and keep our path the same and then.
But we don't know our intention.
Yeah, we don't know our intention. Yeah.
Yeah.
But keeping your intention the same and the path changing. Oh, I can so relate to that.
So back to those notes.
Yeah.
Like any intentions that you guys have, like any of it, just write it down. So at least you just know.
Yeah.
You just know, because I forget my intentions all
of course,
the time.
Yeah. You have to repeat them daily. I repeat them daily in my prayer, in my affirmation.
Yeah, exactly.
At the beginning and end of the day, I have to.
Exactly. And then from there, it almost like, and this may be a weird belief, but I've been seeing this a lot in my life. All of the best things in my life, I didn't work for. And I keep seeing that as a pattern. I'm like, maybe God doesn't want us to struggle.
Yeah.
Like the way, like it's because everything that I've struggled for wasn't meant for me. So that's been really interesting of almost being like, you take the reins. Like you take the reins. I'll create the intention, but you create the story, and like I'll trust the path, and like whatever that is, like let's go, like let's make it fun, right? Because like I do feel like the more you can give to God, to like if he gives you like a red ball, for instance, like like if you have fun and you're playing with it, he's gonna be like, oh, she's playing with it. I'll give her something else. Like and it's just like it's almost like entertain, like show him or show the universe that like you're so stoked of what it gave you that it wants to give you more. Like you almost, and like I have a puppy, her name's Angel. Aww. And whenever I give her a treat, she's so stoked that I gave her a treat that I'm like, I gotta give you another one. And so like, I almost feel like and then when I walk my dog and she like is not leash trained yet, so she'll just be like choking herself out, trying to like go everywhere. And I'm just like, is this what I look like? Is this what I look like? Oh no. I learned so much from dogs. Also, when my dog is obsessed with a ball. One ball in particular, it's gross. I can't believe she still has it. I'm just like, oh my God. so obsessed with this ball. And I'm like, that is amazing. And literally her only goal with this ball is to give it back to me so that I can throw it so she can catch it so I can give it back to her. Shoot. There's no point to this whatsoever. And so it showed me, I was like, do it just for the act. Like, don't do it for like the idea or the goal or the dream. Just do it. And so like whenever I play ball with her, I practice that. I'm like, I'm acting just because it's fun, because I just do it. Or I'm creating this company because it's fun, and this is just what I do. Like it's just fun. And like, because every single time I've gotten caught up in like the huge image of things is like when I've lost sight of my heart's path, and I'm just like, oh. So but the greatness is within that path, like for sure. But it's never like the same path as you would see, because it's literally just you playing with a ball, and you're just like, what's the point, God? But he's like, just wait, like just keep doing it for fun. So,
like, keep doing it for fun.
Just keep doing it for fun. And so I almost, and like now that I'm 24, I'm in this adult life, and I'm just like, do I need to get serious now? Like it's weird.
Don't do it.
I don't want to.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. And so, but it's so strong. I feel it heavy on me now. I'm like, I need a schedule. I need to wake up at this time. And God's like, no, you're not lazy if you sleep in. That's a belief. Let's get rid of that. Like, no, you're not. Like, did you? No, it's just literally, I am now taking off layers that I just got. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And now that I'm coming into my mid-20s, I'm just like, what? Is this not supposed to be fun anymore? Because like, that's what I've heard. And that's what I like see a lot of the times. But I just refuse, because it's so inspiring to meet. I have a few friends that are like, I would say like in their 50s or 60s, and they're like children.
Having the best time of their life.
Having the best time of their life, and everything works out for them. Everything works out for them. And I'm just like, that is, if I'm going to tell a story, I'd rather it be like that.
Yeah. I've added play back into my life so much. Like play is like one of my number one values.
That's why I got a dog.
In life,
You're going to the park.
Yes.
Not for the dog, for you, but you're going to the park.
I just want more play in my life. And there was a beautiful quote by Richard Branson where he said that, you know, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. And I love that, because it's been so big for me. I'm at a place in my life where I'm like, play is a huge value. And it sounds insane, and people don't get it. I just got back from Miami. I was there for 2 weeks, and we were on a really busy schedule. We were working from like 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. every single day. But at 9 p.m. every day, we'd go and play paddle tennis from 9 to 11. Yes. And I felt like a kid every night, where I was just waiting to be out on the paddle court. And I was just like dying to have you ever played paddle tennis? Okay, it's amazing. I am the biggest advocate of this sport. I've introduced many. But play is just such a big value for me now.
Yeah.
And even when I'm with friends, I'm like, what can we do that's playful?
That's playful.
Like I've been doing crazy things with friends, like archery and like painting lessons and whatever it is, because I just want to play.
You just want to play. And it's where we create new passions.
Yes.
Play is where we create new passions.
Ooh,
and so
I like
also
that.
boredom. I always am like, boredom is so valuable, especially now with our phones and like all of this instant gratification. And we've heard a million times, and it's all known now. But like, for real though, like I can't even drive without being like, don't text and drive, but look at all these billboards.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. I'm just like, they're telling it, and it's just all of this is everything is trying to get your attention. Everything is trying to get your attention, like to the T. And so I'm like, okay, how do I work against this? And it's only going to get probably more intense, I would assume so. So that's like literally, I'll say it again, that's why I got a dog. That's like fully why I got a dog. Because I was like, I need something I'm going to get bad news on the phone. And I'm like, okay, bye. And then the dog's just like, you know, okay, here. So you know how like in any like Disney, like movie, like Pixar, whatever, there's always a sidekick.
Yes.
Tangled, the chameleon. Like there's a bunny and the abominable snowman.
Yeah.
There is always like this really funny comical relief.
Olaf in Frozen.
Olaf.
Yeah.
Spirit animal.
Yeah.
I was like, I want a sidekick. Like I want that idiot that's just like running and hitting a wall while I'm trying to like do business. Like we need that. Like
that's
we need
so
that.
Cool.
Yeah. So like movies are so powerful in the way that they like they give us characters to like replicate. And so I've almost like whenever I watch a movie, I'm just like, I like that character. Like that character is really cool. Like one of the shows that I actually like loved growing up with was Entourage.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a funny story to tell you about Entourage.
Oh my God.
So I was a monk when Entourage was famous. So I never watched it. So I didn't know what it was. So my wife just made me watch Entourage. So we literally just finished it It's one of the best shows ever. It's
so good.
amazing.
Yo, they're
Yeah,
just
I would
vibing.
watch it. I would watch it again. I loved it. I literally just watched it this year. So.
Exactly. And so it's like you have like the characters around you that are just
Yeah.
like they're so needed, and you
Yeah.
don't know why, but they're so needed. Like they're so important to the story. And that's
Yeah.
how I look at all of my friends. I'm like, you guys are so like creating your show like is like in a healthy way, of course, because but it's taught me a lot. Like as much as Hollywood is very toxic and dangerous in ways, but it's also a great way to get to understand how you want your life show to go. Like it's just like I can find parts of myself in different like have you watched Dave yet?
No. Oh, no, I have watched it. I watched the first season, not the second yet.
Gata?
Yeah.
I need a
Yes.
Gata in my life.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's so funny. I was just like he's just like he's there always making jokes, always there, always holding it together, always holding strong. Like you need that and sometimes it's you that's that person, but I always that really helps me just like understand the thing I'm doing. So
It sounds like everyone needs to revisit their childhood or remember and write a memoir, even if it's not a memoir that gets published and goes out to the world. It almost feels like reflecting is really important. What helped you? Were you speaking to friends from back then, or were you speaking to your, who are you connecting with to reignite some of those memories?
Oh, everyone in the memories. I called my mom, my brother, my cousins who I grew up with, friends from the time. I corroborated the stories because memory is a weird thing, I remember it a certain way, somebody else remembers it a certain way. And there was this one story I remember. I was kicked out of MoMA for touching a painting when I was 15, 16 or something. And I remember that day being wonderful because we went to the Statue of Liberty after, and we got hot dogs and we were walking around New York City. And I remember it being like, oh, I touched, a painting. That's so cool that I touched. I think it was a Starry Night. And my cousins who were with me remember the day completely differently. They were tortured, embarrassed. My cousin was an art student. She was like, you got me kicked out of MoMA. And I was like, wow, I didn't remember that at all.
What was that's brilliant. Was that your rebellious side, or was that a mistake?
Neither.
Or was it
I was just curious.
curious?
I feel like rules sometimes, and trust me, I mean, I'm in a public profession, I have to follow them. But, sometimes we conform to rules that just sort of stop our ability to grow. And unless it's like hurting someone or something, which by touching Starry Night, I probably was hurting the painting. But at that time, I didn't know.
Well, the value of the painting just went up. It just went up.
But otherwise, I think you've got to sometimes, you have to push the envelope. Yeah. There's been too many generations that have been defined by what people think, we can achieve, or, limitations that have been imposed because of people not being able to think or dream big enough. And I think it's every generation's responsibility to show the endless possibilities to the next.
Yeah, you've definitely done that. I mean, you're constantly breaking rules in your career and your journey, starting from touching that painting at MoMA all the way through today. But was that an energy and a mindset that you believe you had at that young age? Or is that something you think you gradually developed? Where did that confidence come from? Because when I hear you say it today, it comes with confidence. Obviously, it comes with having done it. And I think there are a lot of people out there who may feel that way, but they then also feel insecure that, are they the right person to do that? Do they have permission to do that? There's something that then still holds them back. What was it for you that allowed you to go all the way?
Well, two things. My parents, for sure. I grew up in an environment where I was not shamed for my ideas. At 12 years old, I told my parents I wanted to live in America with my aunt, and my parents were like, bye, peace, it was fine. We had a logical pro and con conversation. I was raised sort of to have opinions, even if the room was hostile. So I think that really gave me a sense of self, and I think it's really important in parenting for us to treat our children like they're developing their own minds, because that's so important for them to have a sense of self and feel like, they're not robots, but they're actually thinking and they have a say in their decisions. It really lends for adults being able to have a sense of confidence. And second, to really understand and accept that confidence is not something you always need. You don't, so put it in a backpack. It's okay. Give it a break. Let it be in your purse. Let it be in your wallet. Let it chill for a second. Feel insecure. Feel like scared. Feel afraid. Feel vulnerable. But when you need the confidence and you walk into that room, you'll have it because you didn't keep using it. You didn't need to constantly have a cover of or sort of like a uniform of confidence. You don't have to always show confidence. You don't have to exude confidence. You don't. You just have to pull it out when you need it. And then when it's in the reserve, it's so much more powerful because you're allowing yourself to be all the things. I feel insecure. I'm terrified that this book is coming out. It's the first time I've ever written, and I've never been so personal in my whole life. I've been a public person for 20 years, never scratched beneath the surface. I've gotten away with sharing whatever I wanted to share about my life and not more. My story is, people think they know it, but they really don't. And I've managed that for 20 years. But I think I, now on the other side of 35, was feeling a sense of confidence and a sense of self in my capabilities, in what I bring to the table. It only took 20 years for me to get there, but I got there. And I think all those insecurities that I address in my book don't scare me that much anymore, as they did at that time. As they worried me, and I was like, I don't want to talk about it. Nobody needs to know about my life. And but now I'm at a place where I'm just like, well, it's still on my terms. And I'm hoping that people maybe get to know me a little bit more than a fashion meme or a headline or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about it. From the few pages that I've flicked through, I definitely see you allowing yourself, and that's the power of a book, though. And so I relate to that insecurity. My first book came out last September.
I know. We know your first book.
I have it. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you have it. I was so nervous. So I know what you mean by that. And especially for you at this stage in your career, of yours is a memoir. Mine had part stories. It wasn't a memoir. So I can only imagine, but I see you doing that. And books are so powerful for that. And that's why I really hope everyone who's listening and watching right now, if you're enjoying this conversation, go and pick up the book, because I do think that media, the news, the short meme, the clip, it portrays such a limited view of someone like yourself. And
it's a superficial view, really.
Yes.
And it's okay. It's a choice also. I want for people to consume only a part of me. I want to be able to preserve my humanity, my family, my life, my opinions. I may have chosen a public profession, but I'm not an elected official. I don't owe an explanation to anyone for the choices that I make. I'm here to create work. I'm doing a job just like everybody else. Mine happens to be in entertainment, and it happens to have a lot of cameras on my face. It's fine. I made that deal with the devil. So I've kind of made peace with the fact that I prefer it being from a distance. But at the same time, I think now I've been a public person for more than half my life. It's my normal. And only now have I reached a point where I'm allowing the walls to sort of fall down and letting whoever wants to know me get to know me as the person that I am. Before that, I was very protective of who I was, because maybe I was insecure about who I was, or I still didn't have a sense of self. I don't know. But I think in the journey of life, I've reached a place where, I'm good with who I am.
Yeah.
So
that's wonderful to hear, by the way. And I can feel it off your energy. What's the part of yourself in this book that you share that you think most people are going to be surprised by, where you think that people may just be like, what? Like, and I'm sure there's many, but what's something that stands out?
There are a few, which I think people may be surprised by, that I was vulnerable enough to discuss. And I think my failures, my struggles, rejections, sadnesses that people have never seen. I always wear a brave front. Most women in like, tough jobs have to always have like a little bit more of a stronger front to be taken seriously. I built that very early. At 18, to be thrown into the limelight of this job. I mean, you know it, you've been in it for a long time. It's a crazy profession. The expectations, the pressure, you know, to deliver under that scrutiny, to be artistic, to yet have a point of view, to be unique, not, have your own trajectory, because that's the only way it'll work. Nobody wants Me Too's in the entertainment business. You want new kind of, you have to always have a sense of evolution. So it was really, really scary in the beginning. And I think everything just changes with time. And this was one of the good changes that came out of it for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm hoping that, I wonder, do you think that's changing now if someone's coming into the entertainment industry today at 18, or do you think it hasn't changed? Where's your perception on that when you're guiding young artists or seeing people that you follow on social media or, whatever it may be? Are you feeling it's changing? Has it improved or no?
The pressure, you mean?
Not the pressure, more the, like you were saying, like when you came into the industry, you had to put on a brave front, you had to wear that face. It was the only way to survive. Do you feel it's the same now for young talent as well?
I think, well, I was talking about definitely as a female in the
Yes,
entertainment
as a female.
business. Oh, as a female. Okay.
Yes.
I think so. I think, it's still hard when you're starting out for women to be taken seriously, for your ideas to be given the kind of credence that a man's would as quickly, probably, especially in professions where normally you don't see women, because women have never been pushed in that direction, or women have never wanted to go in that direction because it was never normalized for them that their ambitions could go in that direction. Business, politics, to be heads of companies, engineering, like, coding, policy making, like stuff like that, lawyers. Women have just about in the last few generations been coming to the fore and, are standing neck to neck with guys, but it's still an anomaly. It's still not as normal in terms of numbers. It's still not equal. So until that happens, I think it will be hard for, young girls to be taken seriously when they come into professions that are predominantly male. But it's okay. Women before us have fought the fight, and women after us will fight the fight. It'll just hopefully not be the same fight. Hopefully our generation will not let our kids inherit our problems, as women. We are definitely working in that direction, but I think as the world needs to sit up and take notice that this demand is loud because it's a requirement. This demand is loud because that's what's right, and that is the reflection of the world. Women are 50% of it, and we should be reflected in every area. And basically feminism is that, right? Like, don't decide for me what I should be doing, when I should be doing it, and how I should be doing it. Just like men have had that freedom, give me that as well.
Yeah.
So I guess it's that.
The
Sorry,
strong
we
message.
deviate completely.
No, you're not deviating at all. It's a strong message, and I stand by it. So it's a great message, and it's really interesting where male privilege is a really interesting thing to reflect on. I remember when I first started reflecting on it, it was even really a few years back, and I feel very much I was raised by my mom, and I have a younger sister, so I'm very close to the women in my life. But it started to strike me in a crazy way that I grew up having had certain dreams of becoming something that my sister couldn't have had. And that wasn't because of the way we were parented, it was because of what you saw. And when that really hit me and I stood and looked at that, and I often encourage a lot of my friends in that direction too. I'm like, if you really think about, if they have a son and a daughter, I'm like, if you really think about some of the options that don't seem available to your daughter, that she may never consider a career. And I really think that consideration is where the equality is, like the opportunity of even having that idea of I could
Exactly,
do
the
that, or I could be.
opportunity of having choice. I think,
Yes.
a lot of
Yeah.
women, I am extremely privileged that I was raised by a feminist. I'm married to a feminist. I'm extremely privileged that my parents, which is why I brought up parenting earlier. A big reason I have a sense of confidence, and I'm on this side of the fight, because it's not as hard as it is on so many women around the world. I still had to fight. Of course, I had to break down the doors, and I had to, prove a point to be taken seriously. I was kicked out of movies and replaced, and all the things. But I still had it so much easier. There are women around the world that don't have a say in their life, that are married off when, other people decide, that people choose who they are married to, whether they can work or not, when they should have children, what kind of children they should have. And that doesn't mean giving up culture. That doesn't mean giving up tradition. It just means creating opportunity. My father told me when I was very, very young, my mom since I was 9 years old, you will have financial independence before anything you do. It doesn't matter whose daughter you are. It doesn't matter, who you're married to. You'll stand on your own feet, and there's such a power to that. To having, to be raised by parents who put that in my head. So I was ambitious from 12 years old. I decided every year what I wanted to be, and it changed every year.
I love hearing that, and it reminded me of something you've said before when you were speaking about your father there, about how Nick for you shares this same admiration of your power and your ambition, and feels supportive and excited and enthusiastic about the way you carry yourself. Tell us a bit about how I feel like that's such an important thing for both of them, anyone in a relationship, to feel like their partner is inspired by their values, their beliefs, and their dreams. What has it felt like in the past where you feel like you haven't had that? And if someone who's listening or watching is feeling like maybe I don't have that, how do you think someone can navigate that, or to ultimately attract the partner that does have that? What's that journey like? Because I think a lot of people feel like they're with someone who may not understand or get their dreams, especially when they're starting out.
Then it's the wrong person for you. And if you have especially if you're starting out and you're testing the waters, and I think it's so crucial, if you have a choice in your life, to end up with someone who is not like enthused by your dreams, is at least interested in them, is at least excited about them, or is at least encouraging. Like that's exciting. Because everyone's busy and everyone has a thing in their lives, but to make the effort to make the effort to make you feel like your dreams are as important as the other one is such a gift. And I have been very blessed to have that.
I find wherever you are in your relationship, obviously you and Nick lead extremely busy lives. My wife and I lead busy lives. And I feel even if someone's not in the entertainment industry or the media industry, everyone feels like they live busy lives. What does support look like when two people are busy, driven, and ambitious? Because you obviously have it, you're speaking about it right now, and it's beautiful. What does that actually look like in a real practical sense? Obviously, the last 6 months or the last 12 months have been different. But in reality, what does that look like? Because I feel that maybe sometimes we have false expectations. Sometimes you want, it's not natural that you can be at every show Nick does. It's not natural for him to be at every set you're doing. Same with me and my wife. Like, my wife can't be at every event I'm speaking at. I can't be at every interview or something she's doing. What does support look like? What does love look like in a very real, practical sense?
I think when it comes to support specifically, I think giving the other person the space to do what they're doing is very important, without them feeling
cách em đi qua cái khoảng lãng mạn như thi ca khiến anh chẳng nhớ được gì cả, chỉ chút vừa vã anh ghi và anh không biết được là đôi mình còn gần bên nhau bao lâu nữa. Nhiều lúc anh nghĩ hay thôi mình có lẽ là đừng yêu nhau nữa, vì cãi vã nhiều quá anh mệt lắm, chia tay nhiều quá anh mệt lắm, tất cả ở em đều mệt lắm. Nhưng rồi thời gian cũng hết năm, em thì vẫn ở đó, vẫn nắm chặt tay, vẫn kể môi sát môi. Anh thì vẫn như vậy, vẫn nghệ sĩ nghèo chỉ có lời hát thôi. Em à, người ta mất nhau trong 2 tuần và ta xa nhau cũng 2 lần. Anh không có phải thằng khờ, cũng biết trái tim đâu đó đã phai dần. Phải cần một sự liều lĩnh để thấy mình còn luyến thương nữa không. Mình sống với nhau như vợ chồng, những tình thế này thì chưa giống. Bài nhạc anh viết vẫn chưa xong, liệu rằng ngày đó có
Just like, and that's such a lovely, loving thing. Just sometimes I'm, back to back, especially when I was doing promo, I was doing like 20 interviews, and suddenly there'd be like a really nice cocktail that would come in the evening, or suddenly there'd be a really nice like cup of coffee, or something to eat for me that would come in, and it's just like so sweet to think about that. Or if I'm sitting outside, he'll bring a blanket and put it. It's just being thoughtful and aware about your person, and that's the greatest form of love, is showing it without really asking for it.
Yeah, that's such a great piece of advice. I love that. You said to be thoughtfully aware, and I think that's so true. And the beautiful thing about everything you just said is that it's free, it's cheap, it's small, it's simple, as in it's accessible.
And it's the best gift.
Yeah, and it's the best gift. Yeah, when you feel like someone's in tune with you and your emotions and how you feel, how you might be tired or how you might be sleepy or how you might be cold, like those small things when you feel someone's aware. And I love that piece of advice. I think it's something that everyone's definitely learned more about in the pandemic, where we're exposed to each other. Tell me a bit about the title Unfinished, because obviously it leads to your determined, ambitious voice, but what other parts of your growth, maybe internally, personally, do you feel you're unfinished on or working on?
I mean, so much. I've just about, I'm in my 30s, and this decade has been amazing because I've just, found my strength, I think, as a woman. And what I'm looking forward to going forward is I'm very nascent in my career in America right now. It's just been 5 years since I've started working here. I just about have done my first leading feature film. I've just about done my first dramatic part here. I want to be able to build, the kind of career that I had the good fortune of building in another amazing industry in India. I've done such a variety of roles there, worked with the best filmmakers, best actors. I want to be able to have that experience here, so that I'm like, my artistic side, now that I've started on this journey in this part of the world, is peaked to be able to do that as well. As a producer, I want to be able to create a lot more South Asian content in Hollywood. I didn't see enough parts for myself. I didn't see enough of it on TV. And considering how large the South Asian population is around the world, and how English speaking we are, English language entertainment should be reflecting that. So I want to be able to tell stories in India as well, and as here. I want to build as an entrepreneur. It's something I didn't do, up until now, because I was building my acting career so much. So, founding my own brand, investing in tech, I find that really fascinating. My philanthropy, I want to be able to set up my foundation really well. My work with UNICEF. I've just about moved into our new house after almost 10 to 15 years of living in rentals or hotel rooms, because I always just kept moving. I was so nomadic. I'm looking forward to, watching the trees grow in my garden.
I love that. Watching trees grow is great. I love that. You're that's brilliant. Hearing you say that, I love hearing you talk about the South Asian storytelling. Like, obviously that relates very strongly to me and my roots growing up in London as well, where I think we have an incredibly strong South Asian community, where you are right now, where I was born and raised. And I definitely felt this yeah, lack of representation, lack of the ability to dream,
Lack of opportunity.
lack of opportunity to dream in a certain way. And my career has been totally random, but it's and I'm doing something today that I would never have imagined even knowing it existed.
But see, even that, you and I, two South Asians sitting in these boxes and talking about the fact that the careers that we are thriving in, that we have worked so hard to make, was never in our minds, was never a possibility. But I would have never dreamed about it because it wasn't in my realm of dreaming. But that's not how it should be. Considering we're 1/5 of the world's population. We're huge. We're everywhere. Okay. And I think, and it shouldn't be so hard for me to, come into an industry and say, I want an opportunity. And for people to be like, oh, well, we're going to have to create that now, won't we? Why? We've existed for a really long time. It's the irony of it is so amusing, but sad at the same time.
Yeah, no, that resonates very strongly with me because I didn't even know any careers existed. And when I say this, I don't say it lightly. I genuinely didn't believe careers existed outside of medicine, engineering, and business. Like I didn't know. I didn't know that you could have a successful career in anything else.
Me neither. At 17, when it was a fluke why I got into the Miss India pageant, and that kind of kick-started everything.
Ca buồn mà cất lời không lên, người đi mất mà nhất thời không quên, lòng u tối dù đất trời không đêm, kể từ khi sống lấy lất đời không em. Đầu quay cuồng trong hơi men, đưa chân về nơi quen, dấu vết chẳng hề phai và rồi chợt nhận ra và vô tình khơi thêm ký ức bung lơi êm mà đã từng kể vai và ngồi. Chẳng cần thiết phải viết lên sử sách mà lại phải nếm trải chuyện não nề. Chẳng thể biết thời tiết đẹp như tranh, thực ra là đằng xa có một cơn bão về. Chẳng cần mơ hay chờ đến vạn kiếp để ta được cạn tiếp cho hết tiền giao bôi, rồi chẳng thể nỡ để vỡ mười nhân duyên, nên ta chỉ khấn nguyện chọn đời này chung lối thôi. Những kẻ si mê tới điên thường mơ tưởng tới thiên đường, ý nương được tô điểm nhưng hận tạo hóa, tuyệt nhiên có ai đành bên em thành anh đài, tình ta như hồ điệp vẫn mãi giữ riêng đây về giây phút khắc sâu. Chẳng nghĩ yêu em mà từng chút mắc câu, sầu hôn hút khuất sau về nét bút chắc đau, hạnh phúc đâu cần chỉ cho phút bắt đầu. Nhớ đến cái lúc còn gió sương vơi đầy, nhớ hình bóng người nào đó vương nơi này, trong vạch khoảnh khắc mong có được đôi tay ấy cố lau đi bờ mi khi nào thưởng hơi cay. Xa một người và bước qua cuộc đời không phải xa đi vĩnh viễn mà chúng ta chỉ tạm chịu lên.
Versus the people that don't make that step, what is the difference?
I think it was abandoning any connection to practicality and really living in faith. It really tested my faith. Because the reason I was able to do it is because, and this is with Julie's help, was because I embraced the fact that it was a spiritual journey fundamentally. So yes, I left being a lawyer and I became this ultra endurance athlete and author and podcaster, but it wasn't because when I was a lawyer, I got out my whiteboard and created a wish list, or, basically tried to, create, this is my dream scenario for my life. I just started engaging in what I felt was more aligned with my unique blueprint. And with that, I would start pulling on the threads that would appear every day. And I was tested. It was very difficult. We went through incredible financial dismantling. Like I was tested in every regard you can imagine. People saying I was crazy, all of it, right? But by having faith and trusting in that sense of what was right for myself, and learning to listen to and rely on that instinctual voice, I think taught me a lot about who I am and also about resolve. And ultimately, I think that's why I was able to see it through. So if you look on the internet, it kind of looks like it all happened like this, like overnight, I just made this decision and became this other thing. This was like, I've been doing this for, 15 years at this point, and I got sober at 31. It really began when I went to rehab at age 31 and started to reconfigure my life based on spiritual principles. And here I am 22, 23 years later, still learning, still growing, still making mistakes. So it's very much not an overnight thing, and it's all a spiritual journey.
And what is your faith in at that time? Because it's almost like most people, when they're in that transition, it's like you don't really have faith in yourself, or you may not have faith in your skills. Like, is your faith in the belief that doing the right thing is the right thing either way? Or is your faith in the fact that you have your wife who's supportive? Like, what is that faith in? Because I feel like that's the hardest thing for people. And I can only speak for myself that I knew that my faith was in the guidance of my teachers. My faith was in the books that I'd read and the philosophy I believed in. And my faith was in, there's a beautiful, beautiful verse in a text called the Manusmriti, which says that if you protect your purpose protects you.
Right.
And that was what my faith was in, was that statement. And I was like, I am going to test that statement to its limits.
But that statement requires that you understand what your purpose is.
Correct. Yes.
And I very much did not know what
That's
my
what I'm
purpose
saying. So what was your faith in?
So, well, first of all, I will say that I was on a journey to discover what that purpose was, and I had a fundamental belief that I did have that there is or was a purpose for me to discover, and I used endurance training as a vehicle for that process of self-discovery, because there's something about being out on a trail for hours and hours and hours, or on an 8-hour bike ride. You're stripped of all artifice, and the kind of low-grade suffering that you experience forces you to confront yourself in a very honest way, right? And you meet yourself in a place that you're not used to, and there's a lack of artificiality and artifice in that place where you can be really honest. Like you're wrestling with your soul at the most profound level, I think, and that's what attracted me to this world, and that's what helped me answer all of these questions, getting comfortable in that crucible. But if I had to say what is the philosophical belief that kind of underpins that, I would say that we are here to grow, and we are here on a journey of greater self-actualization. And the closer we can approximate that place of self-actualization, the better position we are in to express our unique blueprint and purpose in service to other human beings, right? And for me, it's been a process of trying to uncover what that is for me, and then ultimately bring greater expression to that for the betterment of other people.
What does it feel like right now that it is for you compared to when you first started on this path? Where's the evolution of that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because for a long time it was like, oh, you're the vegan ultra endurance athlete guy. And it's like, yeah, I am. And I did those things. But that's just one expression of who I am. And the podcast, much like your show, has been about trying to continue that growth and to understand that I was able to do those things in the endurance world because I understood that we are all sitting on top of gigantic reservoirs of human potential that remain untapped. And I was able to tap into that aspect of myself in an athletic context and express that. But there are all these other areas of untapped potential in my life and in my friends, people that I meet, everybody's life, right? And I wanted to continue that growth curve and that learning process of tapping into those other areas, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, socially, every aspect of what it means to be as self-actualized as we possibly can.
And what do we do with that? You've mentioned that a few times now. Like, it's interesting that when you achieve something, your identity becomes crafted around it. So it's almost like you were that healthy vegan dude, and like you did, like, and then I can see that there's a part of you that's like, but that's not all of me. And I'm more than that.
Yeah, I don't want to be defined by that moniker.
So how do you process that? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that, whether it's their past failures.
Khi say anh tưởng, hãy nhắc về em, mong khỏa lấp những u tối, khoảnh khắc về đêm nghe lại bài ca ngày xưa cũ, ta hát về nhau nhớ những giấc mơ ta từng ước, to tát về sau và đó là khi mà anh dần lụy là không làm chủ chính mình, thấy không gian trở nên tồi tệ mọi thứ bao phủ chính mình, em đâu còn như điều anh mơ anh cũng tự nhủ chính mình, nhưng mà thôi em nào ai giỏi mà đủ tính tình, chẳng thể vươn tới được cảnh cao dù anh có nhã ý trèo, trong cơn say mọi thứ cuồng quay anh trở thành gã chí phèo, yêu chân thành là không thay lòng dù em có như thị nở, ý anh là em như cô tấm nhìn em như thị nở, đêm vắng nàng ngón tay xám vàng vì đốt cả bao thuốc lá, căn phòng chung khi xưa nồng ấm bây giờ sao bút giá, một thói xấu mà anh đã quen khi em không ở bên lâu, anh từng ngồi trong một góc tối nhậu suốt cả đêm thâu, em mang con tim anh đi đâu, khiến anh mù quáng vẫn cố sáng mỗi khi đau, em mang con tim anh đi đâu, điều gì choáng váng để xứng đáng ướt mi nhau, em mang con tim anh đi đâu, khiến anh mù.
It's only as powerful as you allow it to be, right? you always have control over that narrative or how strongly you want to be reminded of a certain identity. You can always recraft that. You only have control over your own behaviors and your own thoughts and your own interactions with other human beings. You can't control how other people perceive you. That's none of your business. So if you're unhappy with the story that's being told about you, all you can do is act in contravention of that. You can't control how other people perceive that, but you can control the story you tell yourself about who you are. So it's about becoming, you hear the adage of like, be the movie star in your own movie, of the movie of your life, right? And understand that at any given moment, that these stories are they're drawn out of thin air. They're not real. This is a projection that comes from a collective imagination. So change the story if you don't like it. And if you don't like the story that other people are telling about you, you can mute that and just do your own thing. So when I didn't want to be pigeonholed as the vegan, athlete, I just started a podcast and started talking about other stuff, and then 7 years later, that's still a thing, but I'm known for other things now.
Yeah.
People will fall into line, based upon your behavior and your actions.
Yeah. With your identity the way it is right now, what are you most excited to not be known for, but be acknowledged for what you're doing, like for yourself, not from other people, not for the external validation, but what are you most excited about doing for yourself?
Just continuing to learn. I want to be a lifelong learner. And I think that growth curve, always exists, and there's always people out there that you can take valid information and tools from to improve your life. So I don't spend a lot of time thinking about how I want to be perceived.
No, of course.
But I think that and people ask me like, oh, what's the vision? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's like I don't think about that. Like I'm so fulfilled in doing what I'm doing right now, and the fact that I get to be on this personal growth trajectory by having amazing conversations with incredible human beings. And then you get to share that with other people and it impacts them. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything more, more gratifying, any kind of career trajectory that would be more gratifying than that. So
what's the most interesting thing you learned recently, whether it was a skill or a technique or a fact or a stat or some research that blew your mind or some experience that just really changed the way you were thinking about something?
I'd probably go back to Kamal Ravikant, like him and his simple practices of learning how to love himself. Like he walked me through these experiences where he really hit rock bottom emotionally in a couple different ways throughout his life, and how these very basic, simple, easy to apply practices have transformed how he sees the world and experiences the world. I think is really profound because of its sheer simplicity and power.
Do you think, based on that, what you just said now, humans only change through pain?
I get that a lot. I mean, pain is the best motivator for change, obviously. And I think the biggest changes that I've made in my life have really been forged through pain.
Does that mean
I'm stubborn? Like I'm not going to change until, my whole world is falling on top of me. And then, oh yeah, okay, I guess I need to modify that.
Yeah.
But it is amazing how human beings are wired that way, because the possibility of change exists in every moment, right? And yet we seem incapable or challenged in our ability to leverage that unless we're being pressured by some external force to do so.
Yeah. If someone's listening or watching right now, but is feeling like they're a safety, secure, stability, motivated individual, and they're like, oh, that's just too much risk for me. It's like, even the spiritual faith, everything you guys are talking about, like that's just, to live in that uncertainty, to live with that much faith, to push to that degree. What are your advice for them? Like, what would you say to that kind of?
Well, I would say that security is an illusion. I think people that are focused on security have control issues. They think that they can control the world outside of themselves and their own behavior. And I think that is a vast illusion that is an epidemic in our culture. I think in every moment we have this sense of, I'm good, things are static, like I can just stay in this place. And the truth is, with every breath, with every thought that we entertain, with every word that comes out of our mouth, we're either growing as an individual or we are regressing. That's the truth, right? And there is no security. Everything is a risk. We're here for a very short period of time. So my call to action to everybody is don't wait until you find yourself in some existential crisis because you've been living your life based upon some, social rule book that doesn't fit your own blueprint. Instead, embrace what is uniquely you and have the courage and the fortitude and the faith to try to bring expression to that. It may be scary and it might contravene what your parents want for you and it might seem risky, but ultimately, I think the riskiest thing to do is to play it safe and live your life in accordance with, somebody else's expectations of what you should do and be.
How did you know that you'd found something about yourself that was uniquely you? Like you've said that a few times now, uniquely you. How do you know when something is uniquely you? Because I feel like so many of us are either so influenced by everything that's happening or I feel like we've lost our ability to talk to ourselves and know that that's our voice.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like most people, when you hear a voice, they hear a voice in their head. They don't know if that's them or something else and they can't tell the difference. So what are those indicators or signals where you're like, yeah, that I'm getting closer, even if I'm not
It's
there?
a really good question. And I don't have like a simple pithy answer.
Sure.
I think it's hard. I think you're correct in that we're so distracted. Our phones are always in our hands. There's always a reason to not be present with ourselves. And the more detached we become, the more difficult it is to know what that internal voice is. So I think the process of trying to understand what is unique about Jay involves that looking inward process, right? It's about meditation and mindfulness and getting quiet and trying to, spend time contemplating, like, what was it that made you happy as a kid? Like, what did you like to do when you were left to your own devices that now you feel like you haven't done in a long time or would be foolish as an adult to spend time doing? And maybe there's a lesson there for you to see. I don't know. I can't answer that for you, but I know that those answers reside within all of us. And in order to heed them or get clarity, you really have to have the discipline to carve out that kind of quiet time, solitude with yourself.
What's the best advice you've received on solitude on the podcast? Is there anyone you remember that kind of you just felt embodied solitude the best, or that kind of quiet, or that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple people. Of course, you have like meditation masters like Sharon Salzberg, who I think maybe the most profound, though, in the most grounded way was Yuval Noah Harari. Basically talking about how like clarity is a superpower. And now, because we're so distracted, distraction is our natural disposition to just be clear and quiet, to have presence of mind, to have clarity about what you think about a particular thing, is a superpower, where that used to just be normal, right? Which kind of makes it easier to distinguish yourself, because all you have to do is put the phone away, learn how to be quiet, learn how to connect with your internal voice. And that makes you much more capable than the person sitting next to you.
What was the conversation that surprised you the most? Was there anyone that not blew your mind, but just surprised you with a belief that maybe something you held true, but when you spoke to them, they changed your mind on it? Was there anyone like that changed your mind on something that you thought was very concrete in your life? Or I'm always fascinated by our beliefs and how they can shift. Like I've always considered myself to be someone who, I felt like when I was spiritually immature, I felt like I had my beliefs and they were the answers, and then nothing else was true. So what I believed was true and anyone else's answers were completely false.
Right.
And then as I started to grow more, you start to realize you know nothing. And you're like, okay, I don't know anything now because I'm not really sure about any of these beliefs. And then you get to a point where it's like, well, I have some values and beliefs. They work for me. And now I'm willing to trade and upgrade based on what I'm exposed to, because now I learned that I need to have a map or a guidebook or a rule book that works, because you need that for life. But then I hear someone say something and I'm like, oh, like that has just opened up my mind in a completely different way.
I think in addition to that, what happens when you're confronted with a truth that contravenes your worldview, the first thing that it does is it pushes that cognitive bias button, and you're like, that can't be right because this is the way I see the world, right? So you feel the resistance coming up. So for you to say, oh, wow, I didn't think of it that way, and to embrace that difference of opinion or perspective, I think is the healthiest thing to do. So for me, it's less about, oh, here's an example, and more about trying to be in that place of empathy and compassion and openness, and to notice when I feel like my resistance creeping up, whether it's somebody who has a different, nutritional or dietary perspective than I do, or somebody who, was able to get sober and maintain their sobriety, by way of a protocol that is at odds with like how I think it should be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to just be like, the world's a big place. The human condition is multivaried. Like, I don't have all the answers. And to be able to sit with somebody who's coming from a different perspective and try to find mutual ground and meet them where they're at with compassion and with empathy, I think is really powerful. It's something that I'm always endeavoring to do with whatever guests that I have on my show. And I think it's what's sorely lacking in our culture right now. And I think if there's anything that I'm trying to do with my show and the example that I set with how I conduct my conversations is to say, look, if we want to move forward as a healthy culture, as a healthy society, we have to be able to meet each other in our differences with compassion, with understanding. That doesn't mean that we do it with unhealthy boundaries, but we have to be able to have mature conversations about our differences, because this polarization and the separation that we're seeing and the unhealthy siloing of opinions, I think, is really polluting and denigrating our ability to move forward as a healthy society, and is deeply concerning to me.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that. I think that's a great answer, because that lack of judgment and openness and just stopping yourself from, like you said, letting your controls creep in, that's probably the hardest thing.
Right.
Because you've been on a train of thought or a school of thought since you were a kid, and it's built and built and built, and it's got you to somewhere, which is probably okay. And then all of a sudden someone comes and just surprises you with a note. What's been the best way you've found, apart from having conversation on the podcast, have you found that people are able to create that openness in their own lives? Is it more travel? Is it watching things that you wouldn't watch? Like, what have you seen that? Like, how can we encourage that more for people to be okay with exposing themselves to opposing ideas without placing judgment on them?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think travel is a big one, right? Investing in experience. People who have done that tend to have broader views and perspectives, and more open-minded about a variety of issues than people who just stay in one place and have their news feed.
Yeah. And even who they follow on their news feed, because that, again, if it's diverse, you're again meeting diverse people there too, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, here's another one I think you'll love.
Go in there, go into the suffering, go into the pain of your life and say, why did this suck for me so bad? Why am I afraid of all this stuff? Because the only way you're going to fix yourself is to go all the way back.